In the first few meetings back in August, we discuss what we think should be covered in the series. We come to the conclusion it's important to include alternative treatments in our coverage. The fact that people are using alternative methods to combat autism makes this news, especially if parents claim to have evidence of improvements while using alternative methods. So we begin to research chelation therapy. We come across a case in the Missouri Supreme Court involving the McDonough Medical Center in Kansas City. This is how we found Dr. Charles Rudolph. Dr. Rudolph is a partner at the McDonough Medical Center. The center offers chelation as a treatment for numerous conditions, including autism.
We're the most published clinic in the world on chelation. We've written over 30 papers on chelation, how it helps the heart, how it doesn't hurt the kidneys. You know, one of the classic things that traditional chelation does, they say it hurts the kidneys. Well, we looked at a 383 patient study that shows not only the kidneys aren't hurt, but they improve 15% with our treatment.
At first, Dr. Rudolph was hesitant about agreeing to do an interview on camera. He says that the media rarely shows a fair, accurate portrayal of chelation. After we got Dr. Rudolph to agree to the interview, Ashley, David, and I went to Kansas City to talk with him.
Basically, the chelation, the word chelation comes from the Greek word chela, C-H-E-L-A, which means claw, and involves the clawing out of minerals from unwanted places in the body. Now, that's the most simplistic explanation I can give of it, okay? But that's where it comes from, the word chelation. If you want to look at basically molecularly how it does, in essence, one of the classic books is The Scientific Basis of Chelation Therapy by Bruce Halstead. You have a central metal atom here, and you have an organic molecule that has a greater affinity for that metal than tissue proteins. Therefore, you can go to the tissue where this metal is bound to enzymes causing problems, and since this has a greater affinity for this, then the metal's pulled out of the body and it frees up the active site of the enzyme. And that's basically what chelation does.
When we first arrive at McDonough Medical Center, we get a few outside shots. Then we go to Dr. Rudolph's office. We start the interview process by getting a tour of the clinic.
There is some use of this in autism. It's just starting to become, a part of the therapy, just like the chelation with mercury is part of autistic treatment.
Then we sit down with Dr. Rudolph and do the formal interview. He tells us how he got into the field of alternative medicine.
But no, it's basically from my chemistry training, made me realize that the best way to treat is from the inside out, not the outside in.
During the interview, he tells us about his clinic's experiences with chelating patients.
I had one lady that had a 95% blockage in a carotid artery, and we treated her with 30 treatments, 40 treatments of chelation. It came down to 35%.
While Dr. Rudolph tells us the positive effects he has seen with chelation, the FDA does not recognize chelation as an effective treatment. Insurance companies rarely provide money for the services Dr. Rudolph provides. Ashley asks him to respond to his critics.
Insurance doesn't cover a lot of this, if any. That has to be hard on people.
Yeah, it definitely is hard on people, which is a travesty, in my opinion. That if a mother decides that, hey, this is why I want my child treated, that the insurance company says, well, I can't get my I just got my Betty Crocker cookbook out, and that treatment's not in here, so we don't have a recipe for that, so we can't treat it. And that should be a crime, and there should be a revolt about that in this country.
When we finish the interview, we shoot some footage around the clinic, including a hyperbaric chamber. This is another treatment Dr. Rudolph uses for his patients with autism.
I mean, how does it work?
You take a patient, you open it up, you put them, the gurney comes out, you put them on the gurney, you put them in there, you seal them in it. It's 100% oxygen, then we pump the pressure up.
As we leave the clinic, Dr. Rudolph gives us papers on chelation. They are studies supporting chelation therapy. Others are newsletters from the McDonough Medical Center.
So what do you say to the people that think you're far out there?
Well, I don't think we're far out. I just think that they're just years behind.
Robert Kessler, KOMU News, Kansas City.